ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In this Saturday edition, we're going to be continuing with our series. In fact, this is the final episode of the series of oral history. That's the oral Liberian history with my guest, Mr. Donald Cooper, born and raised in Monrovia. Mr. Cooper, welcome to Focus on Liberia.
Thank you very much, Dennis. My pleasure.
Mr. Cooper is the only surviving member of the Monrovia brothers, so we say Monrovia brother now. He was born and raised right there in Monrovia. And so we started with the Todma era. We went to the Tobert era. Now we're going to discuss tonight from 1980 to 1999. That will be the Doe era and also the war years, which Mr. Cooper described as the dark days in Liberia. If you just join us, we say welcome to all of you around the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, where we try to educate, to elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Tonight, we're going to be starting with the Doe era, that is from 1980 to 1990. Mr. Cooper lived right there in Monrovia. He himself witnessed these things happening, and he's going to give his, he's going to see those things through his own lenses. He's going to give an account and also some analysis of what he saw and how he saw them. Mr. Cooper, let's start with the Doe era. You said the first phase in the Doe era is the inception, and that's from April 12, 1980 to December 31st, 1980. Your opening statement, sir.
Well, thank you for having me, and it's a hard thing to recollect those type of times in my life, but I like to do that because I'm a avid follower of history. I'm a man that like history, and I thank God I can be a part to contribute towards that part. So 1980, April 12, the killing of Doe was definitely after 12 o'clock because the 11th
The killing of Tobert, you said Doe.
I mean Tobert, I'm sorry. The killing of Tobert was actually 12 o'clock and beyond, which makes it the 12th of April. Now, preceding that, on the 11th, I personally used to play with a group in Liberia at that time called Kabasa, headed by a guy called Dogba Karanda. So Dogba Karanda was a man, a personality on radio at that time, and I used to play for his band, and we had an engagement for the Hilton Van East School at the EJ Raw on the 11th of April. While the divine plan was already working, that by the time we woke up the next morning, it will be April 12th, and it will be the first coup. The first modern day coup in the Republic of Liberia. And that morning, in fact, not that morning, that night, I don't know what made us to sort of have an abbreviation of the program, but we went home that night, and then later on in the morning, we get this, radio information, and a guy is speaking and claiming to be the new leader of Liberia. And this guy's name was Master Sergeant Samuel Doe, and he claimed that he and 16 other men of the non-commissioned officers corps of the armed forces of Liberia had toppled the government of William Tolbert. Now, I can't see how other people felt, but I know how I felt. I felt a little shock. I'm not low, but I felt a big shock. Okay. So did my immediate family that was still there at that time. Some of my brothers who today are here, have been here for a while. But when we heard that story, everybody got glued. I'm sure every Liberian got glued. Even the international community was somehow glued to the events in Liberia. And then that happened, and Mr. Doe made a statement. And then later on that evening, we watched television, and we saw this man. In fact, before the evening could come for us to see it on TV, it was already in the newspaper. At that time, the most popular newspaper at that time, I'm not sure. Don't quote me on this. If it wasn't the Daily Observer, then it must have been. I'm sure it wasn't the Liberian Star, but I think it was the Daily Observer. Can you help me on that?
Yeah, I think so too. So at that time, they were announced. They announced that. Do you know exactly? There's been a lot of accounts about who actually killed Tubber. Do you know who did?
No, I'm not. The accounts I'm giving you of Liberia, I'm not. When it comes to that side of the politics, imagine to the mansion, man. You hear they killed the president. So am I going to leave 9th Street just because I have so much of visa body to go there and see? Come on. So I didn't do that. But early that morning, a friend of ours in the neighborhood, Colonel Gus Jabba, he was the deputy to Flight Lieutenant Arthur Bedell, who was the commander of the Armed Forces Aviation Wing. Gus Jabba lives right down the road from me, and he has a younger brother my age. And then we decided, we heard the story because people were coming from JFK, and we heard the story that Tubber's body was there. I mean, we didn't believe it at first, but because we adventurous kids, or were not kids, young men at that time, we wanted to go see for ourselves.
Okay.
So we headed to John F. Kennedy Hospital, to the morgue in the back, where anybody knows that where they got the morgue. But we went there, and glory to God that He permitted me and Jabba and the rest of the onlookers that came from in that neighborhood, and anybody who was close there and heard it that was interested, they went there, and we just saw one or two soldiers at the back. And this was about 9 and let's say 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, going towards midday.
Okay. Why were people going there? Was it out of curiosity or because you were happy that the president was killed?
Simple curiosity, my brother.
Okay.
So below that curiosity, I do not know whether the curiosity was in favor of the type of atrocity or not. But for me, it was mere curiosity.
Right.
So
and that morning, Mr. Cooper, it was so confusing because I don't know if you heard about Jebo too that time, because they said there was even some counter coup.
Well, that's part of the whole broader storyline. However, we knew that somebody among those non-commissioned enlisted men had defected. And the leader of that group, I personally also knew him because he was somebody that I'm not sure he used to play for St. Joseph, but I've seen him practice on Catholic Hospital field before, along with the St. Joseph Warriors team. Because at that time, my mother was working at Catholic Hospital. So that's how I saw Jebo. But when we went to this place, I had the privilege of seeing Tubber body on the stretcher, dressed in a white total involvement suit, probably during the commotion or whatever happened. They knocked his hat off his head, but he didn't have no hat on his head, but he had that same white suit on. The white suit everybody know him for.
Right.
And his pants was pulled down just below his buttocks or his waistline. And then my observation, I noticed bullet wounds in some parts of his thighs. And then when I looked to his head, because my friend pointed to his head, when I looked to the left side of his head, he didn't have no ear there. Or if there was ear there, maybe the ear was already halfway dropping. But he didn't have no ear there. But the right side of his head, he still had an ear there. And then I saw the other bullet wounds on his chest side, towards his stomach, And then you can imagine standing over somebody who was your president and everybody, the whole country, president. So you can imagine the internal feeling I had. However,
and
I accepted it.
At that time of the night, I don't know why, because the story we heard that he was in his bedroom. I wonder how around 12 midnight he will be having on his total involvement suit.
Well, according to the story I heard, also from other real inside stories, because the colonel who was in charge of the executive mansion battalion guard, I'm friendly with his children. In fact, his daughter is married to my cousin. That colonel name was Colonel Rayleigh.
Yeah.
So the story I heard from people around my cousin's wife was other Baptist people that attended that program at the executive pavilion. It was just right after 12 o'clock that Dole and Favani then made that move upstairs. So Toba didn't even have enough chance when he got back to get into the shower and put on his robe and all that thing. So that's why I think, I'm not saying because I wasn't among Dole then I went there to do it.
That makes sense now to me. Let's go to the very early days and the killing of the 13 men.
Yeah, so after the kill Toba that day, his body was there, everybody knew, okay. And later on by that evening, on April 12th, maybe before 6 o'clock or just by 6 o'clock, by that time, or I don't know where maybe they kept his body there until General, the Court Martial Board, headed by General Frank Sinquini. I'm sure you heard that name.
Yeah.
General Frank Sinquini was already appointed as the how do you call it, advocate general or something like that. But anyway, he was something like the judge. He was a military judge that tried the 13 people because we knew that after they killed Toba, they had arrested the whole entourage of his cabinet. They went to their houses all around and collected them. James T. Phillips, whose children were in the same school with me, they had collected him that morning or that evening probably. In fact, I think it was that evening, the next evening, the 13th. Or, in fact, on the day of the 12th, yes. They collected all of them, rounded them up, and carried them to South Beach Prison. Now, what I'm telling you is only based on news reports, basically, along with other second and third hand stories, which I had to pass out myself. Yeah. So that trial lasted for a couple of days, I think. I will not be sure on what day, but I know the month of April never finished when those people were executed on South Beach. They were executed on South Beach, and then the PRC began to show themselves to the world, to Liberia and the world, who they were. on television by the news. That's how we saw the face of this all the whole group. So along in the newspapers, then we found out who was the foreign minister, who was the this, and who was the that. Famula. That's where I saw the picture of Famula, Bacchus Matthew. Bacchus. I didn't see Sawyer among he probably were in the background knowing every stuff because they were the educated bunch that do then tapped on to know how to go about whatever they had done. Because these people were not educated. They were not educated to the point to know how a government runs.
Should run. Right.
So
that initial group, the most like Bacchus Mafia, they were in prison when the coup took place.
Exactly.
So they came from jail, and then the government was instituted. Let's go down to when the government was settling in now, from the period from 81 to 85. We started hearing about coup. First of all, I think the first person to die from an accident was Falavani, and then we had, I think the following year, that was Wesson with coup. Talk to me about those kind of events and how, people in Liberia say the revolution started eating its own babies.
Yeah, so that's why I broke it down and said up to 12, 30, 80. 31, 80. That whole year after April, we were beginning to know who and what our government was.
Yeah.
Okay. When Do and Bacchus Matthew then performed that coup, I'm not sure because I wasn't in politics, but I'm not sure Bacchus Matthew then had the guts to go in the neighborhood first and tell the neighborhood, "Oh, we the ones that did this thing," or carry Doe there.
Mr. Cooper, let me stop you. Was that a slip of tongue? You said Doe and Bacchus Matthew then performed the coup. Was Bacchus Matthew part of the coup?
Well, technically, I believe that because when Doe performed something, the next day we saw they say, "Oh, they not released Bacchus Matthew then from jail." And putting everything together in my own little personal head, I knew that, okay, if they took Bacchus Matthew out of jail, some way or the other, either overtly but not covertly, covertly but not overtly, Bacchus Matthew had to have knowledge of what was really going on. Maybe he didn't know before time. But remember now, there were other bigger hands behind this military coup in Liberia.
Like who?
When I say bigger hands, I'm talking about what we call unseen hands. And I don't want to be too political here in a public space. But I know what I'm saying. It's not like that's why I still have questions for these seen hands, because the seen hands are around. Okay, but anyway, Bacchus Matthew and Famula there, they did, I believe personally, that they covertly, they knew what was going on. They can't tell me that they didn't know that somebody was planning to do this, So so are you telling me even if these foreign hands were there, they knew Joe? You know what? The barracks, the people just played for Soya and Nokos.
Okay.
Important people couldn't go. If they went there, they had to go to see people like General, General Kofa, or to see General.
No, I said let's go into the coups, the early coups.
Yeah. So when that happened, then the whole state was just sort of trying to first to get used to what we consider new in Liberia, because we didn't know the feeling of how a military junta would behave. We only used to read and hear and see and hear the action. However, now a military junta was performing our country, so they took up to December to at least let the country cool down and get used to, hey, that we the military boys running this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Then when 81 started, then we started seeing a whole lot of press publications about the rift that was happening between Joe and some of these people there. And the name that featured prominently at that time was people like Wessian. Because we already had known that this crew boy who was even higher than Joe and a better soldier, Jebo had defected, and they were trying to get Jebo. And I think what I heard, they had dispatched when the coup happened. They sent Jebo on a highway to ambush Torba going to Bentor. But Torba made a decision not to go sleep in Bentor, but to just sleep in town for that night. That's why when he came from the program, he just went straight to the executive mansion, and that's where the coup happened. Otherwise, it would have been different. Jebo then were ambushing on a highway to Bentor. And that's how we got to know about it. The Jebo situation, and then later on by 81, then we heard about the rift that was already beginning to simmer. I mean, not simmer, to start in the PRC. The first victim, not by Jordan, but by Providence. Falavani had gone to a nightclub that those days people that I used to go to, and it was owned by the people that had the popular uniform store in Liberia on Ken Johnson Road called the Weeks. Those were the owners of the business, but we used to call it, hey man, well, do you know the place people used to buy? I mean, have you heard about the place people used to Oreo?
Oreo store on Camp Johnson Road.
Exactly. Two of that man's nephews had a club right behind the Catholic hospital, right opposite my auntie's house. And that club, Falavani used to go there, once in a while when you go on a security patrol, you carry balls, and they were the big balls, and they go to drink, and I don't know what transpired that night. And then Falavani ended up beating one of the guys, the proprietors.
Mm.
Yeah, because when I say beating him, I'm talking about two men standing up and fighting him. I'm talking about one man ordering his security people to beat, and they were the law and the gospel.
Mm.
So that Weeks boy didn't have any chance, and they beat him. And I think the boys ended up closing the club because that was something. I wasn't to the club that particular night, but it was a club I used to go to too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so when we heard that story, I think a few days later, or maybe the same night, don't quote me on this, as any other Liberian who may be as old as me and were hanging out those days, that person knew that it was after that Falavani died in a car accident. I think he must have been too drunk or high that day, and they were running to go back to the barracks or to the mansion, and they had an accident.
Mm-hmm.
So that the first PRC man that died, he didn't even last 2 years. Then the following year, then we hear that Western Joe started having problems with it. I never heard about Western was a guy that appeared all the time to look quiet, but at the same time physically looking vicious. You know what I'm saying? But he was a quiet guy. But very, very vicious.
Yeah.
So
there was a story that he used to like one girl, and the girl didn't like him, and he killed the girl and the boyfriend, and nobody could find the body. I don't know if you heard that.
Of course, West Indian were killers. I just don't, you see, this is a public term when I'm talking. Then people who listen, they will be thinking that I'm a man. I know no damn West Indian. I just seen him. I seen him places, and those were people that when they came in any neighborhood I was, I felt like a fly, or I felt like a piece of excrement.
Yeah.
So I would just rather use my eyes. That's all. My eyes and my ears.
Right.
Yeah. So we're seeing them. I don't know about that particular story, but I knew about we're seeing being involved in extrajudicial killing and you know just this bad attitude when people get drunk with power.
Yeah. So Wesson was implicated in the coup and he was killed. Just summarize that story. What do you know?
Well, that's what the PRC said. We never had, listen, in a civilized society, even if you and a man go through something, that's why they have courts.
Yeah.
But we never saw Wesson in any court. Whatever the PRC said was what people like us who were the laymen on the street, that's what we knew. And I got most of my information from the Daily Observer because they had a good crew of writers and they had a good editor, Kenneth Jagbaulu Best. And once I read anything that Best wrote or Best reporters wrote, I could give it credit.
Yeah.
Because they knew how to script the language together to describe to describe any situation, tell how the people do it in a civilized country. Not that type of journalism that we got in Liberia. Okay, so that's why we heard that Western was doing it, but it was all by means of the PRC version.
Right.
So Western was eliminated. Then we started hearing about the rift a little bit deeper than just only Western. Then we started hearing about Nelson too. Then people were doing sort of were watching because they seemed to be people. I think Joe had a fear or somebody was impressing upon him that, listen, my man, the other guy, they man, we got to get rid of these people because the minute we lose track of them, the same thing that we did to Toba, they can do it to you. So Joe started to develop a megalomaniac type of a character or attitude towards even his own friends. And I can't say it's a lie because just as I lived, that's how I saw him. I saw the PRC execute Nelson too, not Jeffrey Batu, and some other guys. I just forgot some of their names.
So let's go through some of those trouble times under Doe. Like there was sometimes people used to say that fake coups you used to plan, like one by Flazameton. We also had Nimba Ray. There was sometime when Emma Glee Johnson and other people, and then leading up to the Kuangba evasion. So just walk me through all those kind of instances.
Yes, but from 81 to 83, this Flazameton something was after Doe became real, civilian president. So something I think that was 1985 or 84, somewhere just right around there.
Right.
Because when Doe, according to how they planned it, or whoever were the strategists that backed them behind Doe, they probably told Doe, listen, 4 years, we can't do nothing here to do. What you do is we drop the uniform, and we'll enter into a civilian mode. So Joe started wearing coat suit and all that thing. But that was before Flazameton. But before he went to Flazameton to do an important part of the history I want for people to know, Joe had to be introduced first to the neighborhood and to the African junta or dictatorial part of leadership in Africa. That means all the people that perform coup in West Africa and all over Africa, he had to meet those people as president. So when Joe took power, I think one of the first places I believe personally that Doe wanted to go to say, oh, big brother, I'm here, was to Sekou Touré. But Sekou Touré rejected. In fact, Sekou Touré, that man wasn't even come here. Because Sekou Touré was one of the people when the OAU started, and the first coup ever happened in Africa happened in Togo.
Yeah.
I'm sure you know. I'm sure you know about that.
Yeah.
All right. President Sylvanus Olympio was killed by the military, headed by Nasimwe Iyadima.
Yeah.
All right. Iyadima was the first coup in Africa. But when Iyadima wanted to go to the first OAU conference in fact, I think he even went there. But people like Sekou Touré, they were the godfathers of the OAU. Sekou Touré refused to even shake his hand. He never shook his hand. Never even had a two sisters state had a state discussion. So that had to be the first thing Bakol Mafia and Famula they had to achieve for Doe.
Yeah.
So the one of the first person, Doe first international visit he ever paid. I'm not in politics, but from what I follow, the first time I knew that Doe left the country was to go to Ethiopia. And when he went to Ethiopia, that time Ethiopia was being run by a guy who had just taken power maybe a year or a few years before him, called Mengistu Haile Mariam.
Yeah.
Even though Mengistu wasn't the first military man to do the Teferibenti wars. The man who overthrew Haile Selassie was called Teferibenti. Then Teferibenti was the military man. He ran that place up to coming to Doe time. Then Mengistu Haile Mariam overthrew Teferibenti.
Yeah.
And became the leader for Ethiopia.
True.
And because he was a socialist, I believe personally, just from reading something. So those were the only friends that people like Famula really had, because Famula couldn't go and appear in front of Hupe Boni. That was a no. He could not go to Saka Stevens. That was a no. How could he go to Ghana when the military leadership in Ghana, those people, Ghana is an advanced country, because the military over there, when they tell you this is a colonel or this is a general, trust me. He got a good grasp of academics, militarism, and they're better off than the type of military we had in Liberia.
Okay.
I don't know, but
Mr. Cooper, the time on the first segment is fast spent. I want us to run through a few things quickly, but let me welcome our viewers again to focus on Liberia. This is Liberian oral history. We are discussing the Doe era and also the war years. So quickly run me through. You kind of mentioned Flazamington a little bit. The Nila Ray,
Flazamington, the Flazamington. But before Flazamington incident happened, remember Kuangpa had to come. And Kuangpa came in, the first time Kuangpa came was 1983.
Yeah.
When Kuangpa came, it didn't work out, because in fact, he had already, the PRC had already, not the PRC, because I don't think everybody in the PRC, because I don't believe Jeffrey Batu had a bad relationship with Thomas Kuangpa. You see what I'm saying? So it was those inner crown circle within the PRC that started doing all these things and pushing these guys to do. And that's how he and Kuangpa to do. And then Kuangpa, bam, through the assistance of the unseen hand, we heard that Kuangpa was in America. He are going into exile.
Mr. Cooper, this is the second time you're talking about these unseen hands. Who are those unseen hands?
No, I don't know whether you're consciously doing it, but I know you're not consciously doing it, but These are some of the problems that Liberia got, but people refuse to accept and people refuse to know. But when we're in private, I will tell you who the unseen hands are. But you try to figure that you're an intelligent man.
No, I don't know. That's what I try to find out. But go ahead.
Okay, so Kwokwa goes into exile. Then we managed to go through 82, 83, and all that stuff. That time, really, some of us who can look between the lines of politics, we found out that this PRC, they don't really want for it. And they were, I think, they were also wary of the old man on the east of us, Ivory Coast, putting his hand some way or the other in undermining them. So Samuel Doe and Hoover Bunny or Ivory Coast and Liberia really never had no good relationship when Samuel Doe took power. So 83 comes, then we hear one early morning, Thomas Kuangba come, and everybody was happy because it was through Thomas Kuangba that even my uncle's clinic that he built and his donation to Liberia in the health services on 12th Street, today the SDA Cooper Clinic. It was through Kuangba, who was also heading, even though he was commanding general, but he was heading a commission established by the PRC called the Reacquisition Bureau. I don't know if you heard about it, but the Reacquisition Bureau was a government functionary that was giving back the properties of people that either were victims of that bloodthirsty movement in Liberia, but they were giving it back to their families and all that thing. So even after that happened, the PRC people even went, can you imagine you go and capture a clinic just because a man named Cooper, whereby the man never put in politics.
I know. So the things they took back from government people and others or people that had things, those were the things they were giving back.
Well, I don't know if it was only government people, because my uncle was not a government man. He was not a government man, but nobody that ever lived in Liberia can deny the fact that my uncle Henry Nehemiah Cooper's contribution to Liberia in the medical field was a very vital contribution to Liberia, and I am very proud.
I heard that. Also, within that time, there was an invasion on the University of Liberia campus. Anything you know about that you want to share?
Yes, but that now you're talking about the government troops coming to the university campus. That was a result of the people, not the people, but the young academics beginning to see that a military junta that didn't have the tolerance for criticism and all that type of thing seemed to have an appearance of a bad governance. So the boys then they started writing all kind of stuff in the I know that they call it soup. The party they had that soup in the newspaper and all that thing, and began to criticize it. And remember now, the people that say they came to liberate the country, Joe had already eliminated about 4, 5, 6 of them.
Yeah.
So people started to notice, but then we look one day, then they say this man, Western, in fact, they were already gone. So people started to have all kind of misgivings. Remember, the military too, those enlisted men, they were not only crown people that were among them. It was Gil, crown, and every child that once you were in the military and you were an enlisted man, they were represented you because it was those non-commissioned officers that performed that thing. And Podia was crew. Podia wasn't crown. Jeffrey Batu is Gil. Or from Nima County. Father Baniba, he died, but he was Gisi.
Yeah.
Nelson too, though he was crowned, but according to what I heard from his own brother, Robert too, who said Olonuna champion, the Barrow song.
Yeah.
Okay, Nelson, Robert too and myself were good friends because they were in my studio or the studio that I worked for. We recorded Robert too, and that Barrow music, I am one of the principal arrangers. In fact, I am the principal arranger. Robert only came with the idea and he's got the musical talent, but I was a little bit more advanced than him when it came to the theory of music. So I knew how to put it in a workable commercial setting. So Robert music, I'm not claiming nothing, but he is the composer. But I am the principal arranger on that album. Me and my producer, the Lebanese guy. Yes, of that particular song. Not only that song, because who was your mama? Who was? I arranged all those. In fact, I even played in it.
Oh, but really? I didn't know that.
My man, the studio that Robert Fatu Gifler, all the people recorded the music. I was the keyboardist in that studio.
Oh, okay.
I was the keyboardist. And
right, let's do the final thing on the Doe era, and then we're going to go to the Taylor era.
Okay,
every time we have we call, I would say, the voice of conscience. So during Doe era, we have people like Albert Port, Bishop Michael Francis, Mother Wilhelmina Dugley. We have the Council of Churches. We have the Grand Coalition. So there were people who were speaking out on the ills of society. Let's talk about those who are doing that. I'll just give you a few names.
Okay. Our Port was doing as usual. Our Port didn't have a particular enemy. He had an enemy, and his enemy was anybody that did not display a preference for justice in any society. In fact, God who made us, God taught us justice. Justice is not something created by man. It's created by God. But we, the academics, they put it into things that law, human law and all that kind of thing. But the basis of law and all that thing is justice. And our Port, whether you were Tubman or whether you were Tauber or whoever president you were, all he was just a little writer. Man, I mean, you walk on the street, you not even know that somebody says this is our Port. And any society would like a man like that. Because our Port always sneak on, and he had educated children and grandchildren. But he was never a person that was flashy. He was never a person. In fact, I don't think our Port even passed 8th grade, but don't give him a pen and paper. So people like us who liked to read, who literature and all the things, academics was something that we liked it. So I always read his works, even when he was criticizing Tubman. I was not at the time big enough, but as I grew and went to school, my dad, I keep telling you, my dad was a guy who he followed everything. So when he read anything from Albert Port, he kind of drop it to us because all his children who could read and write.
Yeah.
So we like it, but basically I used to be the one that used to be interested in reading in depth and then sitting down with him asking questions about who they put guy. Then he would tell me, oh, they guy was doing that. You way talk about time. Talk about time.
Yeah.
Then when I started doing my research, I found out, so Tubman even put this old man in jail all at that time.
Yeah, even before Tubman. But let's talk a little bit more because after they die now, we see people come here. They say, oh, this was Mother Dukley prophecy, Michael Francis prophecy. So did you really hear those prophecies? Or
I'm not going to. Personally, I'm not putting anybody down. But I'm not going to devolve to that level of what, because there's something in Liberia that is very bad. This, they say, the thing they call they say?
Yeah.
They say is a cacophony of nothing but sometimes just abject or sheer lies. I'm not saying that Mother Douglas never preached certain ceremonies, certain sermons where she criticized the ills of society, but I'm not sure she was pointing her finger at Samuel Doe and then the people to do. Maybe she was pointing her finger at the whole group of them for the things that were happening in Liberia too by the governing class. And what's wrong with that?
Yeah.
But I never heard. Once in a while I would listen to her stuff because I'm a Roman Catholic. I don't listen to all these type of preachers. Some of them, yeah, they're charismatic. Yeah, you can say some things, but I'm not going to devolve to that level and say, "Oh, Mother Douglas, she did." Maybe she did. I don't know.
Right, you don't.
I'm just saying,
that's fair. That's fair if you don't know, but you are not devolving to any level. But let's go quickly to the Taylor era. And
yeah. So all that now. Yeah. All that now we do. Yeah, all that now we now past 1985.
Yeah.
That's why I call the settling down phase. Because after he finished getting rid of his alleged enemies within the PRC and whoever, then when all these people like Bishop Deeks and all these people started preaching about the ills that were in society because the ruling class wasn't paying attention to what they claim to have come to correct.
Yeah.
So I expect Doe to have an exception. Then Doe goes into civilian form now.
Right.
Then
Mr. Cooper, our time is fast spent. That's why we are skipping to the Taylor era.
So Doe becomes, the civil era, Doe becomes president. Doe plans his own election. And when he announced that he was going to run, he went to BTC to announce his candidacy. In fact, not BTC, shuffling. He went to shuffling to announce his candidacy. By that time, he had already groomed a Gizzy guy called, a Gizzy academic in the Foreign Service called Harry Moneyback to run with him.
I think it was Bandy.
He was what? Okay, Bandy, but I'm just saying for Lofa. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah, Bandy guy. So he brought that poor man into, but the car roof of those government was a guy called Bagbara. So I believe it was through the academic effort of Bagbara and a few other people, they created something called the National Democratic Party of Liberia.
Yeah. But Mr. Cooper, I want us to go to 1990 now because our time is fast spent.
So, but
the war years.
Okay, then Doe runs the country till we get to 1989. Then one day, while in December, we hear that the government suddenly said, people attack to the border in Nima County.
Yeah.
So when they said that, then we wanted to see, since Nima was still far from Monrovia, we just thought, as naturally, the Liberian didn't take that thing serious until the boys hit Monrovia. Only the people in Nima knew what was really going on. And then later on, the people in Beaumont, because when Prince Johnson broke away from Taylor, at the first place he ran to after he left Nimba, he passed through Boncan, he collected some weapons from there. Then he went to Beaumont. Then from there, that's how he came to Monrovia. And then two people started retreating from the borders and coming to town. By that time now, we're already in 1990, up to from the beginning, in fact, my New Year of 1990 wasn't very good. It was something a little shaky. So we would sneak to go buy beer a little, and the shops then were beginning to behave like in the next couple of months we ain't gonna get no goods on the shelf. Then in July, I will never forget it. July of 1990. Excuse me?
Yeah, go ahead.
In July of 1990, to my house on 9th Street. Can you imagine from 9th Street to Freeport? I then hear a whole lot of real suppressive fire. But before that, we already have been hearing from January all the way down. We've been hearing about fighting. In fact, by I think like March, April, Easter, the people were close to Monrovia that you could hear fighting going on. Then you see convoy loads of soldiers on Tubman Boulevard taking shortcuts to go to FC passing right in front of my house. We knew that this stuff was serious. Yeah. At the same time, we're monitoring BBC. So what was going on in the mansion to the mansion way, I only got those type of inside information from a friend who was part of SATU, the special anti-terrorist unit that Doe created. And he was one of the main operators. But because we grew up together.
Mr. Cooper.
Yes, sir.
From the beginning, who do you know that was in Monrovia, if you have any knowledge, supporting Taylor? Because from what we learned, people that were in government, they were there supplying information and even defecting to go on the Taylor side. Do you have that information?
I don't have that officially, but I will expect that because this is Dennis. This is how life goes. All the coups there, even all around us in Africa. Do you think that only the person you saw that the press king and took their picture, they were standing there? You think that only them knew about what was going on to give them that power? They had other silent or what we call silent players.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to tell you this person or that person. I ain't no politician.
No, but Mr. Cooper, if you know, tell us.
But I believe I know some people who may have not liked the PRC and in fact the Doe regime, and I'm not saying that they were giving overt support to the incursion that was happening in the country, but when I went to play cards in the evening to my own personal friends that I had, well, we meet every evening to gamble. By that time, they carried the curfew up to, I think they carried the curfew up to 9 o'clock. Because I was still playing band. I had a band right in a club right opposite El Maison Hotel. 1990. When Prince Johnson took over Freeport, when he took over Freeport, that's when the guy I had a contract with in my band, that's what we abrogated the contract because it was getting too dangerous to come all the way from Cinco, come downtown, and in the evening, most of the white people that were there, they were basically in hotels. They would just move from El Maison and go to the other night club right across the road, and they go back to the hotel. Right, 8:30. Imagine nightclub and you're closing 9 o'clock or 9:30. Because to get taxi, transportation, so that's where I started to breathe or to sniff that something really bad is going to happen to this country. Then I stopped going downtown to Monrovia, and I only stay in Cinco 9th Street to my place. Then food shortages started to happen, and then just in the neighborhood in the day, I see more than 50 executions happening right around me. When I say around me, like just across from your house to the next house.
Who are those being executed?
Samuel K. Joe soldiers were going around and executing people based on their judgment of how those people appear to the, according to them, that their security man told them, oh, the person look like underman, or, and all that kind of thing. So in fact, even me, it reached a certain point when after they killed Doe, when the rebels came, by the time the rebels could get to me on 9th Street, the news was already in my area for 2 weeks that those guys don't like to see people wear jeans,
red T-shirt. But Mr. Cooper, let me announce the phone number because we want our people now to call in and interact with you. The number is 605-313-6004. The code is 791403. Call and join the conversation. This is our oral history section with Mr. Donald Cooper. Mr. Cooper, at some point, you found yourself in what became known as Greater Liberia. That's the Taylor territory.
Yes, and that happened September 14th, 1990.
1990.
Because, after they killed Doe, the day they killed Doe, that Sunday, I was trying to go to on my maternal side. My mother's people, they were living in Nuclear Town, and they had the essentials that the ordinary man or any man was looking for, which is food. Which is food. So I will leave for 9th Street sometimes, some days with my mother, and leave my child with my father in the house. And then my mother, the reason why I would move with my mother is my mother too had fear that young men of my age group were more easily prone to get killed. So my mother would act, though she would be my partner, but she would act as a means of cooling the temperament down, most especially passing through the checkpoint from Russell Street, which is the back road from Tubman Boulevard, where you can just come up through Jalatown and then hit Maternity Center.
Right.
That was the road me and my mother used to pass, or sometimes the old lady would be too weak and I would just say, man, you just say, I'll go. Because I knew where to go in Nuclear Town. I knew where my family people were living.
Those were terrible days. I remember we were also kind of moving and finding food as a teenager. But let's fast forward and get to you or how you got on Taylor's side and tell us what happened there.
That's why I said 2 days after they killed Doe, when I came back from Nuclear Town, the reason, in fact, I didn't even reach Nuclear Town, right to the corner of Broad Street and Johnson Street. That's where I saw Doe and his convoy passing to go to how you call this place?
Freeport.
To the Freeport. Yeah. So I didn't feel that I was good because from the way Prince Johnson, I've been following what Prince Johnson was doing and what the rebel was doing. I just had this feeling that, well, why would this guy even decide to leave? Because where across the bridge was Prince Johnson's own territory. According to the TRC report I saw with Prince Johnson testifying, Prince Johnson claims that Doe, instead of calling him with the phone and telling him, say, oh, my man, I come in there today, he only told a guy called Philly Thompson, who used to be something like he was something like the communication man for Doe in the last days. So when Doe started going where I saw the convoy, my man, I said, for I want the hunger would kill. I started walking to go straight back to 9th Street. And God willing, God being with me, I managed to get there. When I got there, in the evening, a Nigerian guy who was my neighbor saw me right down the road from his house and told me, say, my man Cooper, when you go home, turn BBC on. And sure enough, when I saw my pa and my mom sitting down, he told me, don't come. They don't catch that man. I said, you joking? Then I explained to them how I saw his convoy going across the bridge. He said, but why why this man guy, why he go to that other man place? But the deal was done. So 2 days later, the rebels had a more freer access to leave from Spring Airfield area, which was the farthest they had reached their forces. Then they started coming down towards City Hall too, because they were headed towards the mansion. 2 days afterwards, after they killed Joe, that's when the rebels took me, my mother, my father, my little 2-year-old baby at that time, and the little boy I was raising, and he was helping me. He was a little older, but he was helping me to raise my son too. And he was living with me. So when the rebels came, they took us from in one, because we all assembled in one room in our house out of fear. And instead of the upper part of the house, we came downstairs, so that just in case there was anything, we could present ourselves to them and tell them, oh, we ain't got nothing to do with it. And sure enough, we went through easily, in a way, because when whoever was the battle group commander saw that my old man, though he was a Congo guy, but the old man, wait, you know what I say? The other people get, the foodie man kill all your people. So, and my father speaks 3 of the traditional languages of the western part of Liberia.
So we got a call about, and your thoughts. So the rebel took you where now?
Took me, my father, in fact, they didn't take us, they took us, everybody. Mm-hmm. Just walk straight on Chisholm Avenue till you get to 17th Street. When you get to 17th Street, near Relda Cinema, climb the hill, because most of the people were walking on Tubman Boulevard. That's where they were evacuating the people all from City Hall, the town, everywhere below LU, not below, before you get to LU from the eastern side. Yes, everybody was to go to Dubo Road. From Dubo Road now, then you will decide whether you want to go Fender, wherever you want to go. If you know anybody in Basel, Plano, wherever you want to go, but just go. We call that behind the line.
Mm-hmm. So did you walk from your home and walk to beyond the line?
My almost 70-year-old father, he could walk from 9th Street all the way to Dubo Road, and I was carrying them, so I had to be something like the guy. And my mother was in her early 60s, so I was the only physically fit young man to do it. Now, when we got as far as Congo Town, because everybody was walking, and I don't want to describe the scene that I saw.
Right.
People.
Let me bring in the caller. You are taking a long time to just tell me how you got to. So let me bring in our first caller, and then.
But the first place I gotta get to a place where it's safe and healing first, and at Dubo Road. So from Dubo Road now through my hustle, knowing few people, then the foreign minister who was the foreign minister for talk. The killer that time was a guy called Momolu Sako Salif. So Momolu Sako Salif came from LAC, which was Taylor's base at that time. He came from Liberian Agricultural Company with a bus, a Toyota bus, with a Lebanese guy driving it. And their mission was to take all the dependents of workers, of the people that were working at LAC, and carry them to Bassa or carry them to LAC. And that's how me, my mother, my father, and my baby, my 2-year-old baby, and the little boy, I call him my son now, Dubo, and that's how I went over there.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me bring in my first caller, and that's Jackie Sire. Jackie, you're alive.
Oh, yeah. Hello, Dennis. Hello, Mr. Cooper. Thank you for taking us down memory lane. This is very interesting. I've always wondered 2 things. Yeah, I always wondered 2 things, and I wanted you to help me with it. The first one is, remember Sack Tower?
Baby, how old are you to talk about Sack Tower?
No. My auntie used to go there.
if I went there.
Hold on, let her complete.
I said my auntie.
Yes,
My
yes,
auntie,
ma'am.
my auntie used to go to Sac Tower. So that's one thing I would like to know what happened to it. But the second thing is, I've been thinking because my auntie, she was in a choir and it was taught by Baromi Morris. And I always wonder what happened to Mr. Morris. Do you remember Baromi Morris?
Baby, those are the musical giants of our country. One day,
definitely.
Maybe why
and I was off air. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm listening. I'm just saying I'm going to go off air, but
Baromi Morris was one of our country's greatest giants. I've met him. I was young, but it was through my dad I got to know about, because they got to know about Baromi Morris way in the 40s and that kind of stuff. And I wasn't born in the 40s though. But if your auntie went Sac Tower, then talking about I was a bad little boy. I had two big brothers that used to hang Sac Tower. They used to hang a place. We used to have bowling alley in Liberia. You ever heard your auntie ever told you about that?
She's off the head now, so just go ahead.
Yeah, but all those places were the entertainment places we had in Liberia back in the day. And old man Baromi Morris, he died. He died normally, easy, way before the coup.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is this Sac Tower? What is that?
Sac Tower is like any nightclub in Georgia. It's hot.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah. Sac Tower. It was basically an entertainment place.
Right.
Then when I was growing up, even we used to have before Sac Tower, we used to have the not the African jungle. Man, I think something Palawa anyway, but the restaurant where they had Johansson. It used to be another entertainment place. Almost like the way during your time when they used to have Bonja and all these type of places.
Right.
Those were the places we had in the 60s.
So now let's fast forward beyond Taylor territory. I mean, first of all, before even getting there, the ethnic killing in Liberia was just too much. People were being singled out because they work for government, or this ethnic group or that ethnic group.
Yeah.
It was ugly. It was gruesome.
You mean during the war?
Yeah, during the war. We're talking about these dark days now.
Yeah, the war. There were three basic targets. The three basic targets were anybody from Grand Gila County, and then anybody from either Guinea or Lofa who claims to be a Mandingo or part of the Mandingo ethnic group.
Right.
Then the third was, if at all you work in government, but you work in a position that was, very high there, and sort of made it apparent or to look like you were part of those ruling suppression. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
on the Dose side, they were looking for anybody from Niba.
From the Dose side, they were looking. You mean from during the war? Yes, the Dose side they were looking for anybody from Nima County.
Yeah. Then this is what we heard to Mr. Cooper, that Taylor gave special instructions that if you find any Congo person, bring them to Banga or kill them. You find any country person, kill them. Is that something that you heard, or?
Well, I didn't hear it, but in a very subtle way, I felt it, because it was because of a one Congo guy and one Gio guy that knew me from on the street for us playing cards and playing dice and all that type of thing. And whenever I steal money from my mom, in that neighborhood, I go to hang out.
Yeah.
I never used to hang out. With my family people when they're having these nice, top Western partner. I'm not saying I wasn't invited there, but I was the grown-up man. So when we were on Congo Town Road, and the three Gil girls, rebels, they halted me and my son and the little fella, Bel boy, or helping me to take care of my son. They halted us, and the three Gil girls began to claim that it was their sister that died called Kou. When they saw the handsomeness of my son, or maybe not only the handsome, they just wanted a child, and this was a beautiful, who they sing up man time with a baby on his shoulder, and they decided to interrogate me. So when they told me to lift up my trousers, the cuff of my trousers, I lifted up my cuff of my trousers, and they saw the elastic marks on my shin from my socks, and they claimed, "Oh, you see the man? The man, I saw that man. He can't wear good clothes here to do." But and then my grown-up instinct kicked in, and I challenged them. I said, "I'm no damn soldier man." And they said, "Okay, what you do?" And I told them, "I'm just a musician." Then they wanted for me to clear that doubt in their mind. Look at the kind of guy I talking about. He's wearing nice trousers like they with nice nigga. You can't talk about him. What kind of music you play? Then I started singing one of the songs that I helped to arrange from a group from Nima County. By the time I sang the first stanza, I who don't talk Gil, but I knew the song so bad because I have to arrange the chorus, and up to today I can.
Is it Tumba?
No, it's a song that was composed by a guy who was in the military, and the military band came to recording in my studio, and this particular guy had a song that they liked, and the way I helped them to arrange it, me and Colonel Barrow, who was the head of the musicians at the military. This song, I don't know what it meant, but it starts like it. Then the rhythm we put behind it. Oh man, it was bad. It was bad. It was a jumping song. So the military album that year, Fatu Gibler album, Caesar Gata album, and one or two others. The Moreover Brother wasn't much as a hit like that because I play a different style of Liberian music.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, I ended up on to LAC with my family in October of 1990. Right where my auntie used to be the secretary for she used to be the executive secretary of the general manager of the Liberian Agriculture Company that year. So Alma Glad Johnson, Charles Taylor, Siri Allen, Nyondu Makomana, all those people, Tom Woyu, all of them knew my auntie. Because when it comes to get supply for Charles Taylor, it's my auntie that does the paperwork to send it down in the administration for them to go in the staff to go in the warehouse and load the food stuff that the people need, and the money, everything should be right in the office, and visit town, we just tell us, okay, all right, do the paperwork, and then go back in your office, and then Charles Taylor, he hands money out to Charles Taylor, to continue pursuing the war.
Right.
So I was
supply for Charles Taylor. What was that? Was it in LAC or Monrovia?
Yes, when Charles Taylor took over Buchanan, his headquarters was, even though it was, in fact, he had two headquarters. He had three headquarters. Banga, LAC, and Firestone, Harbel.
Okay. See? On the behind the lines, there was a lot of things going on there. We heard of the death of Jackson Doe, Gabriel Poulet, Stephen Jefferson, Emma B. Johnson.
I only heard those stories based on based on the type of rebels that I've come across.
Right.
And I myself, having worked for Taylor on the economic side, you know what I'm saying? Because I had to hustle to get a little money to feed my mom and my pop, man.
So what work did you do on Taylor's side and for how long?
I was there until 1994 when the ECOWAS started attacking us very seriously. But I just did an ordinary job because Siri Allen carried me to help me to get something to have a job, and that's how I started getting little funds to be able to support my parents there. Because my parents had never lived nowhere else besides Monrovia before.
Yeah.
So imagine living in it. Go ahead.
So let's wrap up on Charles Taylor. I know you and finally Taylor, you know, they went to Monrovia.
Yeah, well, so all Jackson do them thing, it happened not what I knew. They were only stories that later on were, and it's so mixed because I was listening to Prince Johnson the other day when he testified at the TRC. He has his own version. And I even though he's a killer, but there's one simple thing I like about Prince Johnson. Prince Johnson is a damn disciplinarian. Even that what made Taylor to even be afraid of him. But that does not excuse whatever act he committed out of him. But I can respect a man for the devil. Even the devil needs to get his due.
Yeah.
So when all that happened, then 1993, my wife got pregnant. But by that time, I was living in York County, in Greenville.
Okay.
She got pregnant in Paso where I was living, but ECOWAS attack on Charles Taylor in 1993 became so heavy that we started to escape. Because we didn't think that Taylor could hold up because the MPF had already suffered a lot of defeats by that time. And then they were cluster bombing all over the place, all kind of indiscriminate ways. So you don't want to be caught up in that thing where a woman with a pregnant child. But my child today is 27 years old, works for the state of New York, Buffalo.
Amen. All right. So, Mr. Cooper, our time, we don't have any more call. Let's conclude. And in your conclusion, looking at the two eras, the Doe and the war era, what do you think responsible for all this and where we're heading as of today?
Well, I'm sure every good intentioned Liberian wants to keep hope, because I am somebody who still keep hope. But there are a whole lot of things that are responsible for what happened in Liberia. However, the bottom line of what happened in Liberia, we got to stop hating each other just because another man can make a little bit more money than you, or because he wear fine clothes. All those type of human indecency. All those type of things. If we learn to get over it, that's why I keep stressing for education, whether technical or academic. Because if people can be able to make their own money, nobody will be, I'm not saying that hate and all that thing, not all over the world, but the more, it will give people more chance to behave more civilly to each other. That means we can argue, are you putting me down or putting my character or denigrating my integrity? Because that one, now we got to go to psychiatry to tell you why does it affect men, or we go to philosophers to find out those things. These are all qualities within men. So we got to make sure we imbue in ourselves, each and every Liberian, we got to learn the gift of temperance.
Yeah.
If you have temperance, That means even if a man pisses you off, you don't have to slap him, but you can put him right back on track and even bring him lower to you by making him to understand that, hey man, what you say or what you think is not really this way, it's this way. And probably he will be more prone to accept and to interact with you. So who wins? You see, the mind is a terrible thing to waste. So, and that is what is happening in Liberia. And it's all because of proper education. Because if you're not, when I say education, I don't mean necessarily formal education.
Right.
Okay. But we got to learn to coexist in a world that every part of the world, everybody's striving for peace. Now, there can be no peace if there's so much noise. You know what I'm saying? If there's so much noise, this man talking, the other man talking, I know better. No. We gotta learn. If you know better than me, come reason with me. And if you defeat me in your reasoning, then I will subjugate myself to you. But other than that,
thank you.
I'm not going to do that.
Let me read a few comments and then we can conclude. The first one here from Musu Tom say, first Jackie said Wesen was responsible for killing Jassy. That's the lady I was asking you about. Musu said this is exactly how Liberia trouble started. Jackie said, Jackie Sire, I think Flanzamenton released Doe. He was on the 5th floor. That is why we heard that Kuankwa captured Doe and left him with Flanzamenton, who released him. Musu said, I remember most of what Mr. Cooper said. That is the truth. Jackie talking about the LU incident say, I remember vividly protesting for Dr. Amos Sawyer. The high school kids were there at the day to register for their UL exams, and they got caught up. And the other one said, can you imagine all these people are dead? They made the city hot during the government.
But Sawyer is not dead. Sawyer is still living. But you know the reason why you don't hear their mouths very much now? Sawyer people tell all these people.
Why?
It's because they are guilty of the sin that they are part of my country.
Okay.
I grew up right across the road from Tipote. That time Tipote name wasn't no damn Tipote, was Rudolph Roberts. But you see, because they became book people, they came to the country instead of teaching people how to reason, how to be reasonable, how to be educated by looking at any subject matter from the standard of reason. They started to teach people politics. And I myself, one time I was a Marxist. I was a Marxist in the middle 70s. That's why I made me to John Powell and all these people. But when I got to find out later on in life that, you know what, you guys just show up to just stand up and just be top pile of academic verbosity and tautology.
Let me read it. Let me read the final comments and then we close. This is from Dave Jar. He said, in hindsight, Doe was poised to be a transformative leader of the nation. He was destroyed by the TWP class and their domestic thoughts. Now Liberia is back in the Stone Age.
But
So-
where is the TWP? Where is the TWP class that been ruling the country since 1980 to our court? You see, these are some of the type of people. I say he mustn't have his opinion, but you can't. You took the people out of power since 1980. Who has been running the country? Wasn't it the patriot? That man must be from the patriot, and he can't make me a friend. I can go in Grand Gita. I got friends in Grand Gita. I lived in Grand Gita for a little bit, just for a little short time. Beautiful, very, very beautiful place, geographically and topographically. But it is our thinking. People just want to learn to go to school to be, an economic minister. I did to do. And all they do, they just turn numbers around, just steal from the country.
Thank you.
No integrity, no moral compass. That is the beginning of a civilized society. We got to learn to be morally upright. not perfect, but let us be upright somehow. This one he talking because he think I hate do, and I know I got a lot of crown friends too.
Those are comments. He's not making the comment because of you. That's why he feels.
Yeah, but he mustn't lie. I am saying he is lying on the ills of Liberia. The Jewish party did contribute very immensely to it. However, you cannot put in, you cannot try to bring in a corrective action that will end up turning to be even worse than the ills that you came to correct. So why is he pointing? Let him point his finger at every Liberian. We got to
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. We gotta end it here. We've gone
my brother.
30 minutes.
Okay, sir. Okay,
Yeah,
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I want to thank you so much, and we want to thank our viewers for hanging in here with us. This concludes our series on Liberian oral history. Tomorrow we're going to be talking a lot of politics, lots and lots of politics about the elections and everything elections. So please tune in first at 2 o'clock, then 4 o'clock, then also 6 o'clock. We're going to be interviewing people from Liberia who will give us the reports and analysis on the elections. And people here, we're going to be talking also at 7 how we can make our electoral system better. On behalf of all of us here at Focus on Liberia, my name is Dennis Giles saying thank you so much for being here with us, being our guest, Mr. Cooper, and also being the audience, even for those who are going to watch later. We're going to end now with our song which says, "We are all Liberians." No matter what we experience today, no matter who we voted for or supported in the elections that just ended, we are all Liberians, and we must do everything we can to make our country the glorious land of liberty. Good night, and God bless you. Bye-bye for now.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home. Liberian people. Liberia.